spelt with an E in French, E-X-E, not E-X-A, okay? Somebody else who is a native French speaker, admittedly from Canada, il y a une nuance, there is a nuance, okay? En utilisant imaginé, entre guillemets, le sens c'est vraiment que tu te crées une image dans ta tête, qu'elle soit vraie ou non, c'est un simple fantasme. En utilisant s'imaginer, le sens c'est que tu te fais des idées sur une réalité ou que tu crois en une réalité qui est peut-être fausse. La différence entre le premier et le deuxième exemple que tu donnes est que dans le deuxième, tu viens de te rendre compte que l'autre personne ne t'aime probablement pas en fin de compte. Translation. In fact, there's a nuance. In using imaginé, the sense is really that you're creating an image in your head, whether it be true or not. Yeah, it's a simple fantasy. In using s'imaginer, the sense is that you are coming up with ideas for yourself based on a reality where you believe that the reality is possibly false. Yeah? So the difference between the first and the second example is in the second was the one with the, if I'm not mistaken, the second was the one with the reflexive. Yeah, the second was the one with the reflexive. You've just realised that the other person doesn't love you at the end of the day. So that's interesting. So it's kind of also basically saying that if it says je m'imaginais que tu étais amoureux de moi dans mes rêves, there's the nuance of it not 100% being the actual truth. Now that nuance could extend to whether or not at the time you didn't know that, but you now do. So you're now talking about the action when I used to imagine that you were in love with me in my dreams. God, it's beautiful, but very tragic. If you now know that the bastard doesn't care for you, then je m'imaginais would be apt. It might be that even then you didn't know. It might be that even then you didn't know, and that you used to, play this fantasy out in your head, Elizabeth. So that's another idea. So the idea of the croire à tort that we had in the original word reference could basically extend to whether it is that you know or you're talking about somebody who did know at the time that it wasn't necessarily true, or that they didn't. Does that make sense? So it's possible that the person doing the s'imagining knows it's wrong and just enjoys doing it, or for whatever reason, or there's the possibility that they don't. So I think that's quite a good distinction. But because there's the possibility that it might not be true, it would just tend to go into s'imagining. Good, that's one thing. So thank you, Frog36. Lovely. On doit pouvoir trouver des exemples où imaginer n'a pas le même sens que s'imaginer. Cet écrivain a imaginé cette histoire après avoir séjourné dans tel pays. Je ne pourrais pas employer s'imaginer ici. Égal, il fait volontairement travailler son imagination pour produire un roman. S'imaginer a souvent le sens de croire qu'une chose est vraie, et il s'imagine que son voisin lui veut du mal. Okay, lovely. So basically, one has to be able to find examples where imagine, without the reflexive, without the pronominal, hasn't got the same sense, doesn't mean the same thing as s'imaginer. This writer has imagined this story, this writer has come up with this story after travelling in this country. Imaginer there would be imaginer. So this guy now is talking about when, and this wasn't really Elizabeth's worry, but this now is talking about when you could use imaginer but not s'imaginer. So if you're kind of creating something, coming up with something, sometimes s'imaginer wouldn't be right. So after travelling in this country, this writer came up with these ideas. That's a real clear case for just imaginer, yeah, creation, okay? Je ne pourrais pas employer s'imaginer ici. Yeah, I couldn't use s'imaginer ici. He has voluntarily worked his imagination to produce a book, yeah, a novel. S'imaginer often has the sense of believing that something is true rather than creating. So that's, again, a little bit still relevant to what we're talking about, but it's basically going back to our word reference definitions, which was basically if you're coming up with something, the conception idea, that would be imaginer. But that's subtly, I don't really think anybody English speaking would ever accidentally go into s'imaginer there rather than imaginer. Yeah, but that's still useful to know. Next point. Anna Chong, Chinese, Chonga, changer, whether she's... Oh god, there's all these play on words. Bonjour à tous. Est-ce que vous voyez une différence entre imaginer une maison entourée d'arbres au bord de la mer et imaginez-vous une maison entourée d'arbres au bord de la mer? Merci de votre imagination. Ha 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 ha. Clever. So, hi guys, hi everybody. Can you see a difference between imaginez une maison entourée, imaginez-vous une maison entourée? So this is the one where I would probably say, let's see what they say. This for me is more kind of like you're calling someone to the act of doing it. I want you guys to imagine. What do people say about this one? Oh, de la Mancha. Okay. Plaisir France, Français de France. Okay, Français de France. So they're very much stressed that it's French from France. They say, il n'y en a pas, je crois. There's not one, I believe. Which is quite humble. That sort of opens the possibility that they might be wrong. Le imaginez-vous est juste dit pour attirer davantage l'intérêt de la personne à qui l'on parle. Lovely. Now, notice as well the very classy use of l'on for one in general. We use an L apostrophe O-N instead of en. Because it just sounds better in that context, the qui en parle, qui l'on parle. It's quite a classy thing to do. If you don't understand the usage of that, then go to my channel, type L apostrophe O-N, and I will explain the difference between on and l'on. So basically this guy is just saying in this case, it's not like an inversion of the reflexive, the pronominal one, meaning because it's wrong or anything. It's just a way of calling someone to the act of imagining it. Okay? Lovely. Point virgule, which is basically full stop comma in French. Senior member, that's often useful in forums to see whether or not they're a senior member. That means they've been posting for a while. Posting. Au sujet de imaginer, normally it'd be d'imaginer, but it's au sujet de imaginer, s'imaginer, Larousse, which is a fantastic dictionary, en ligne dit ceci. So the online Larousse says this. Imaginer, se faire une image de quelque chose ou de quelqu'un, se les représenter mentalement. S'imaginer, se représenter quelque chose, quelqu'un dans l'esprit. Not massively useful. Mettre capello, or capello, depending whether you're going Italian or Spanish. So they are a French Swiss speaker. Je vois dans la version pronominale une légère nuance, celle d'imaginer à tort. Yeah? Comparer elle s'imagine des choses et elle imagine un monde merveilleux. Yeah, so again they're going with, so that's often when they answer these things, what is their first, skimmed off feeling. I see in this pronominal version, this pronoun version, a slight nuance, a slight, shade, a slight difference. The one of, celle de, imagining incorrectly. Yeah, so elle s'imagine des choses is kind of incorrect. It's not necessarily something that's going on. As in, if somebody was mentally a little bit unwell, elle s'imagine des choses would be a great way of saying, she's sort of seeing things that aren't there. Elle imagine un monde merveilleux, she's kind of envisaging whatever. So if you sort of say, elle imagine un monde merveilleux, and the world isn't yet marvellous, but that's kind of like, there's no idea, it's not necessarily there. See, this is where it's subtle, and I can see Elizabeth's dilemma. But if you sort of said she was imagining a marvellous world, she was coming up with a marvellous world, and the world might not be that marvellous, but basically, she was picturing the world being like that. You might go, yeah, but Luke, the world isn't necessarily that lovely, so why would that not be s'imaginer if it's wrong? Because it's kind of like... And then you'll say, yeah, but Luke, you've just previously said that s'imaginer with the girl imagining the boy in her dreams, that you went with s'imaginer. I see the subtlety, but basically one is kind of really picturing something, as opposed to one is kind of like almost taking the pleasure to imagine that for sort of emotional well-being kind of thing. And I know that's really subtle, Elizabeth. Final one, let's do, point virgule, says, en fait, il y a 3 définitions à s'imaginer. La première, que j'ai déjà donnée, est équivalente à imaginer, se représenter en esprit. La troisième est celle de se représenter à tort, dans le contexte de la phrase dont il est question, ou l'entendrait plutôt dans le sens premier non. So basically, again, point virgule has gone with the whole wrong thing again. Anything else that's relevant here? The non-pronominal verb would imply that it's only a hypothesis, a conception of spirit, a creation of spirit, whereas the... Yep, so basically, Elizabeth, I think we're just seeing the same thing. So this is just delving deeper into it, okay? If you wanted something really, really interesting, we could go to Lingui, and let me see if I can bring up some examples on Lingui. So it's always nice on Lingui, or Reverso. Let's try Lingui. Lingui's recently gotten a little bit... You type words in and it'll come up with EU-style documents rather than just basic French. But if I typed in je m'imagine... Lovely. Let's come up with a couple. So, je m'imagine facilement conduisant cet élégant cabriolet sur les routes sinueuses de l'île de Man. Okay, so basically, I can easily picture myself driving this elegant convertible on the winding roads of the Isle of Man. So again, that's picturing yourself. Yeah, that's the one where that's the one where it is genuinely reflexive. Okay. Je m'imagine qu'elles ont beaucoup de mal à se concentrer sur le travail. Okay, I would think it would be very hard for people to concentrate on what they were doing. Now this is kind of going with I would think, it might not necessarily be true, but in my opinion possibly, je m'imagine, okay, rather than to conceptualize j'imagine que and an opinion. But for me, both would have worked there. Yeah? Because if we were to go back to our original word reference page on Imagine, okay, I suppose. Yeah, that would have worked with suppose. There's not as many je m'imagines as there are j'imagine, which is actually very telling, isn't it? So, je m'imagine donc qu'aujourd'hui, il aurait son propre site web. So, I suspect he would be sort of publishing his own website. They've gone in the je m'imagine there rather than j'imagine. It's because it's this nuance here of possibly the person's possibly recognising their, if not necessarily error, but possible hypothesis. As in, maybe I'd imagine he's got a website. It's possibly a little bit less determined than I believe that, which is kind of what we're getting to with the j'imagine. So this is bringing a little bit more of a subtlety, a little bit more going towards this, maybe it's just me, but. Maybe it's just me, but. That's a good way of talking about this. Okay, how long have we got? Let's try and keep this under 30 minutes. And the rest of those tends to be j'imagine, yeah, these tend to be I cannot imagine, je n'imagine pas. Yeah, the rest of these are me imagining and envisaging myself. So an overview then, Elizabeth, what we've basically come out with is that the example that your teacher has corrected you on, for my mind, is possibly the clearest of all of the things that we've talked about, because it really is this idea of clear wrong and error in what you were thinking. So that's quite clearly, we could have answered your question in 10 seconds, but I just think it's nice to delve into kind of what people think, and also what different people in the French-speaking world use. That's how I would use it, as well as I imagine myself. Those are the main two things, imagining yourself doing something and also being wrong. But we've just sort of talked about the subtlety as well, because you deserve a good bit of research. So if you found this video useful, guys, do please let me know. Please click on my Kofi account. Please, feel free to contribute. Otherwise, I will see you guys soon.